Hello! Welcome to this quarter's book club. To round out our mystery theme, we will be talking about The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. That's his name, right? Yeah, Stuart Turton. So we're going to just start with our star ratings. Also, just our regular disclaimer, there will definitely be spoilers because I want to talk about the twists in this book. The many twists. So there will be spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, just be aware of that. As we'll get into later, I think it's okay if you get spoiled in this book, but that's just me. You might care whether you get spoiled or not. So anyway, star ratings. Kelly, what's your rating of this book?
I didn't hate it as much as everybody else. It was like a 3.5 for me. I did think the concept was really cool, including like what we find out at the end of like what the actual concept is. But we'll go over that when we try to summarize everything. So I thought some of the lines of the writing were interesting. So it was 3.5. But I completely understand what other people did enjoy about it.
And Megan?
I gave it 3. I feel bad when I rate books below 3. So I gave it 3. My deepest condolences to Stuart. I know you're a big fan of our channel, big watcher. So I feel a little bad because I've never just like outright disliked a book in book club before. I DNF'd one once, but it was.
I think
I didn't feel bad.
And then, but kind of pretended we'd read it. So.
The 3 stars. Good job keeping all those plot lines together, kind of, Stuart. That was a lot.
I also typically feel bad going lower than like 3 stars. This book got a very rare 2 stars on Goodreads from me. It's probably like 2.5 stars for like the concept. And for me, I mean like the blurb concept, not the twist concept, which I didn't like. But I think it's like a really cool concept that I would have liked to like read if it had been a little different. And I also, I am really impressed by like the amount of plotting and outlining I know this book had to have taken. And I do think that he like does a good job of like keeping it all straight and making it all like tie together. I just don't like the way that it all ties together. And there were things about the writing I didn't really like. Not a huge fan of this book. I think it had a lot of potential to be a book that I would enjoy. But the way he chose to tell the story was not a way that worked for me, I think.
Mm-hmm. Megan and I were talking about this before Emma got here, that it's going to be a Netflix show or movie, I'm not sure. Series, 7-episode series. So I feel like that might be better. I really hope they like just take the concept and loosely adapt and like add in some variety of characters. But getting out of Aidan's head and just enjoying the concept, I think.
I hated it.
I think it could be a cool show.
Yeah. And Griswold said, I like the premise, but it was just too long and there were too many characters and I never started to care about the characters. I think it would be a good TV show. That was my problem. I just didn't care about anyone. And I get that a staple of the mystery genre is like the person trying to figure out the mystery who is a bit more detached from it. But it didn't work for me.
There was too much jumping around. Like for a book that like already the concept is that like the character is going to be in like a different body every day. But that's not even true. Like he's in like multiple bodies in different days. And like, so it was really hard to like settle into it, like get to know any characters well enough to even like, I don't feel like I even like had any guesses about what was going on until very late in the book, because I was just like, I don't know who any of these people, like I have not been introduced to this world enough to have like any ideas about this mystery.
We've got Leslie said, hey, what happened to my comment? And I'm not sure. I tried pulling it up on YouTube, but I'm not seeing it at all. So please ask it again. I would love to see it. I got my book from the library and you mentioned the writing, Emma, and it made me think about this part very early on in the book. I don't know if it's going to catch it. someone just underlined and put a question mark under one of the sentences where he says, I wonder how many of my patients will stay loyal when I approach them with my stethoscope on upside down, which A, impossible. B, I agree with whatever library patron felt so concerned with this line. I didn't underline anything else in the whole book, just that sentence.
Yeah, I, speaking of the beginning, like I had a hard time with this book from the very beginning. Like, you know, there's like some books that you're like kind of into at the beginning and then like you have trouble, but I really had trouble with the beginning of this book, which like, once again, like some of it's kind of staple of mystery genre. And also just like, I understand he was kind of trying to go for the general confusion of like waking up in a body and you don't know who you are and you don't know what's going in or what's going on. But it started so suddenly that like, I was just confused for not even confused. I was just like, I don't.
Okay, let's try to do the like summarizing the book because I'm trying to like remember the specific like. So he wakes up in the forest and he thinks Anna's being murdered.
Yeah, he wakes up
What
and the
actually
first word
happened
he thinks is Anna.
Yeah.
It turns out it's like a maid that later he chases through the forest. Like no one got murdered in the forest in that scene.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't like that. It felt like almost starting with a dream sequence or like a fake out of like, oh, here's a very dramatic intro. Not really.
Yeah. I actually like I read 2 books in a row, this one being the first one, that like started like in the action of a scene, which like I do not like in books. So just like starting there with like I wake up in a forest and I'm yelling someone's name and someone's about to get murdered. I was like, oh man.
I actually kind of agree with Leslie, who said I liked the hook to it. It pulled me in quickly. Sometimes confusion is good. I didn't mind that we started in the forest and he thought Anna was dead. It was just that like once he got in the building, everyone was like, it's fine. Anna's probably not murdered. And he was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go upstairs.
I'm gonna go take a nap upstairs.
But I must have misheard Anna being murdered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I think this book was an example of why that doesn't work for me sometimes. The whole like starting in the middle of something like confusing and actiony. Like I think it can work. Like Leslie said, sometimes confusion is good. But the problem with some books, including this one, is that it's like it throws you into this. Like someone may have gotten murdered, and then like figuring out where to go from there, I think can be really difficult. And and a lot of times it ends up with the character just kind of like sitting around because like you have to like kind of explain. He has to get like oriented to the house, and you have to start doing some more like world building and plot building. And so sometimes books can stall out when you do that. And I think this book kind of suffered. Yeah, like he gets to the house and it's like, I'm just gonna go chill in my room for a while and be confused.
And I almost felt like if we had gotten more details about the game that was afoot, that it would have felt less like, what are you doing? What was his? Sebastian. Mr. Bell, what are you doing? Why are you waiting? If they had just been like, brought him in and they were like, this is a game. No one's been murdered, but someone will be. Like if we had just jumped it, but they kept it so shrouded in mystery that it was a game and he was going to have to figure out.
So like if the plague doctor had showed up sooner.
If we'd seen the plague doctor sooner, maybe. And obviously I mean, this book, I assume made a lot of money. So who's to say really if I know what I'm talking about, but
Ingrid also said this opening made me think of a video Erin made about mistakes new writers make, and one of them was opening with a character running through the woods.
Yes, I'm so sad Erin couldn't make it tonight because she had so many feelings about the book and then realized last minute she wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
Okay, so continuing with recap because I know Megan wants to get to like the end of the book and like put together the pieces there.
Yes.
Okay, so Sebastian Bell is the doctor guy. We've got a list of like each of the days kind of pulled up on the side here. Roger Collins, is that the butler?
Yeah, I think.
Yes. Because I did think that was interesting. I feel like Sebastian Bell's kind of like standard get attached to EVELYN day. We go to like seeing something Sebastian had seen from someone else's perspective kind of thing. Donald Davies just walks into oblivion.
He gets in the car and drives away.
Well, that's what I kept wondering why Aidan didn't just do that. Just get in your car and drive away and see what happens.
But didn't he kind of?
Did he?
He tried
like
to
with,
run on
yeah,
day
that's what he
3.
did with the day 3 guy. Is he just tried to leave, and then he just passes out from exhaustion eventually, and then
Missed
just
it.
they kept
It was
kind of
all a
waiting to
blur.
see if he could go back to that guy. And then we have Ravencourt, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. Jonathan Darby.
He wanted to smell the lady's shirt, right?
Oh yeah, maybe he was that guy.
Was he the rapist one, or was that
Yeah.
Dance? Yeah,
I think Dance. I think was the like reminds me of the guy who played Senior Lannister. That's who I pictured Dance as in my head of like hoity-toity goes on a hunt old guy. It's Dance, I think.
I'm looking them up. Because yeah, it's like after like Ravencourt, I just like forget who everybody is until the cop.
After Ravencourt, it started like I started caring a little bit more about the details of the plot and a lot less about whose body he was occupying. Because I was like, I don't want to know what he thinks about the body he's occupying. I don't want to see those thoughts anymore.
Yeah, Jonathan Darby was the like son of the woman Millicent who dies. So yeah, he was like the like rapist that his mom was covering up for his issues. Edward Dance was the lawyer, the Hardcastle's lawyer.
So then Rashton's the cop,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Gold is
the last guy.
let us know if you have any more I know there's so many characters. There's like 5 of you watching, which wow, thanks for being here. I'm sure we're
artist.
Who is
Gold is the artist that like painted the family's portrait.
Right. Yeah, so middle things happen. I can't
we
have any
meet
clue.
the footman.
Yes, I did. I thought the footman was interesting.
Yeah. So the thing with the footman, if the footman killed him for reals, he was dead for real, right?
I think so.
Oh wait, I wasn't thinking the footman. I was thinking the butler, the like butler character. I thought was interesting.
Yeah. The butler who gets beat up early on.
Yeah.
No, and not his butler. The one who works.
Oh, Ravencourt.
Yeah.
Ravencourt's like.
Yes, I thought he was interesting. And like so, and like Aidan blackmails him, and like and then he ended up like going and kind of doing things on his own. Like I found him more interesting than Aidan. Like I kind of wanted to know what
he was doing things.
Yeah.
Instead of just like wandering around, like I don't know, maybe the mystery will solve itself.
Oh, Leslie pointed out. Also, EVELYN was a factor in all of this.
Yes,
although less so than you would have thought.
Given that she's the title character.
Yeah, that's really like one of my issues with this book is I feel like the few women who even were in this were very flat. Like,
I was not invested in them at all, which is like, especially
even
like
when you
Anna,
tried to like give EVELYN like an interesting thing, it's still like it was like no.
It's like she's good at chess. Look, she has a personality.
Yeah. And like it's like I didn't like Sebastian was like so like oh my gosh, EVELYN's so nice, she's my friend, she's so great, and I'm like, she walked through the woods with you.
Yeah, so he keeps coming into contact with EVELYN, but doesn't want to bring up to her that she's going to be dead for whatever reason. Because she wouldn't like him talking to her about it.
I know he tries to bring it up.
Yeah, he does try to like warn her, and she kind of seems like she already knows. Which
she like brushes it off. But then he just like doesn't really try again, right? He's like, well,
I think he does in like 2 different bodies.
Really?
But also like I don't think he even finds out that EVELYN is going to die until like his 3rd body or something.
We don't see her die until the 3rd body.
Yeah. So like it takes him a while to find out what's even going on.
Yeah. So there's the footman who's trying to kill him because why not? My biggest thing with this, he talks to the plague doctor and is like learning all the rules and is getting more familiar with the plague doctor, who is basically the game master. He keeps coming in at certain times when you might be about to put down the book, and is like, hey, this is actually what's going on. And so they are having this conversation where Aidan is like, well, how many times have I done this? Because it just keeps resetting and resetting and resetting because he keeps not figuring it out. And the plague doctor says like thousands of times. How did the footman not kill him in thousands of iterations?
Good point.
Aidan's not smart. Like, how did he die immediately?
Yeah.
Because like, okay, so how it all actually came together. So we've got like this game, we've got 2 other people in the game who don't have the same advantage that Aidan does. So because the other guy has to start over and basically hire the footman at the beginning every time, like it's not like the footman got to do it 1,000 times. The footman starts over every day.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's a good.
Still just don't think Aidan's smart enough to avoid the footman that many times.
Right. Especially when like his focus has been on other things so many of those other
Many
times.
times.
Yeah.
I did love the like messages from himself in the future in different bodies, like helping him avoid the footman. That was very creepy and cool.
Yeah, there was definitely some cool stuff about like how the timeline came together for him, where like, the things he did like affected other things. So that was really cool. And that was where I was just like really impressed by how well it was all laid out.
Or the revising, or both.
Yeah.
And the one twist I did see coming, and I usually am not great with twists, is that like the person he thought was his future self not being his future self. I caught on to that fairly quickly, and I thought that was interesting. Of like, you're trusting this guy and you feel like, oh, he's just me in the future. And then, which I really liked that, but I thought it was dumber that the footman was just a random person who existed at this house.
Yeah. It was like weird that like the footman was so important for so long, and then to just be like, nah, he doesn't matter. He's just a person there.
He was just a person at the house, and also none of these people were real.
Yeah, none of this matters really.
I mean, they were real, but now they aren't real.
I think the twist that the one guy whose name I can't even remember now.
Daniel?
Yes, Daniel.
The twist that like Daniel wasn't actually his future self and was actually one of his competitors was like the one twist I really liked out of all of the twists. Like that one, I was like, okay, that's like clever. I like that.
What did you guys think about the Anna twist? That she's actually somehow a multinational murderess who has changed her ways, which Aidan can tell after 8 days of knowing her.
Yeah, that seemed like weird to me.
That part I thought was kind of silly. I did like the like making it just this like weird purgatory puzzle of like, this is just kind of where we put people. I thought that part was interesting. But yes, Anna in particular and Aidan's relationship with Anna kind of felt unnecessary, other than needing to give Aidan powers that other people didn't have.
Yeah, and I just felt like, why did we need to doubt Anna? Why?
Yeah. Because like, it was like the book couldn't end with him just being like, well, I'm going to peace out of here and leave her. Like, so like, I feel like he like had to be like, oh no, she's changed, let's get her out too. Or the book would have felt kind of incomplete. But yeah, it just I didn't feel sufficiently convinced. And I had as much time with her as he had.
Yeah, the reveals of like her past and how she was tied to him and his own reasoning for going into the maze. Like you could have given the motivation for entering the maze to Daniel. Like it would have been very easy to be like, oh, Daniel was the one who killed your sister. But then also having this man who's been in this maze for what, like, Amber's was it 30 years in the maze, and he has no memories, obviously, because he gets reset, and they're like, oh, this woman killed your sister, and his first thought isn't, oh, I have a sister, huh? It's like, oh, I'm devastated for 2.5 seconds.
I'm not really sure plot-wise why it was necessary to have him relive it. Of like, wouldn't the stakes have been higher if it was just like a one-shot thing?
Yeah.
I guess because it was supposed to be rehabilitation, which I don't really understand how that would be rehabilitation. But making you solve puzzles all day long, like
without
remember your
person, you know?
or any of the personal growth you're supposed to be going through. So
it seems like there are better simulations they could put you in to try and like help you rehabilitate than just solving a mystery. Because like that was something that like bothered me about it, is like the whole thing is like, oh, like they just have to solve the mystery. And it's like, well, solving the mystery doesn't make you a good person. Like,
Yeah.
what if you just solved it? Like, I don't know, like the whole idea that it was like somehow unsolvable with them getting their memories reset and stuff. I was like, I feel like at some point you would have some really smart criminal figure it out, you know?
Yeah. Who just wanders in and is like, okay, I did it. Can I go now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go commit some more crimes. Does not seem like
I think more interesting would have been like using it as like a
punishment.
So yeah, like a giving back to society thing of like, okay, criminal, we're gonna put you in this thing we could never figure out. For the benefit of humanity, you can solve this problem. Points. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting twist, but at the same time I didn't like it. Like I didn't like the way it was pulled off, I think. Like I don't think I necessarily had an issue with the idea that it was a prison, because I think that can be interesting, but I just like didn't. I don't know. Like I got to that point and I kind of like rolled my eyes. I was like, "Oh, it's a prison. They're criminals."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like most prisons, this seems completely ineffective. Like, what are they doing here?
Okay, so then the other mystery of the death of EVELYN Hardcastle.
Evelyn's like a serial killer, basically.
Yeah. Which seems like a twist that would be extremely up my alley. But we never spent any time really processing it. It was just like, oh, and also she's a serial killer. Let's move on. What about Anna? Like,
yeah. I don't know. It's another like instance of just like her character being so flat that it was like I rolled my eyes at that one too. I was like, oh, okay.
And also like, okay, so the EVELYN he was friends with wasn't actually
right.
Yeah. Wasn't the serial killer EVELYN Hardcastle.
Did we ever figure out who chess playing EVELYN Hardcastle was? Did it say?
Yeah, it's somebody whose name, I don't remember her name, but she's mentioned really early in the book. I think he like sees her name in like a letter or a diary entry or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the very end, he finds out that's who EVELYN like paid to pretend to be her. I don't remember her name though.
So, and Griswold said, was EVELYN pretending to be her maid?
Yes. Yeah.
So
no, Felicity is the one who's pretending to be EVELYN. And
yeah. So she was like in a letter that made Aidan think something or like wonder about who she was, and then she kind of fluttered off back into the distance.
You totally forget about her until the end of the book.
Yeah. That's a twist I could get on board with. I wasn't shocked by it because there was a lot going on and we really didn't spend much time letting any of it sink in through Aidan's thoughts.
It's once again like the prison twist. It's one that I think could be interesting and could be a cool twist, but it just like wasn't pulled off for me. You know, like it just, I think because at the end it was just like bam, 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 all these like things. Like you're like, oh, okay, we solved EVELYN's murder. Actually, I don't know. It just like was too much right at the end of the book, I think, for me. And so, and none of it felt earned, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know, for me, learning that EVELYN's a serial killer, she's been posing as her maid, she's now down in some lower level area with Aidan and Anna and rehashing the details of her evil plan. And like, I don't know, it felt extra flat for me because we just read this long thing about how, well, Anna's changed. And so it was like,
You've also just learned that none of this matters.
Yeah, we've learned that none of it matters. It feels weird having this like, well, Anna is a terrorist and she has changed, but EVELYN,
EVELYN was she was like a caricature of a villain.
Yeah.
And so after just finding out like, oh, that bad people can change, she like comes in as this like mustache twirling, like even the prison wardens who designed this don't know it's actually me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really hope if there's a Netflix show, but the Netflix show adds female characters that aren't just serial killers.
Yeah. And I would like to see, because like, yeah, so much of this book, like at times felt like almost needlessly complicated. Like it was more complicated than it needed to be for me. Like I wanted like a mystery where the character's in a different body every day, like, and there was like a little too much jumping around and like a bunch of extra mysteries. And like, so I would like to see the show, like if it's going to be 7 episodes, I'd like to see like each episode be him in the body of one person. And I think that would make it work better for me.
Mm-hmm. I think, I will still probably watch the show because while the book structure did not work for me, I think that was largely due to the writing style and like the voice of the main character, which won't be as big a part of the show. And I really, really did like the premise, and I think it's very cool. And you have like lots of opportunities for cool aesthetics, which was like what drew all of us into the book in the first place, was this really pretty cover. And then it had a very cool sounding premise.
Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting to see how whoever they cast as that lead, like, oh, I guess you can't even cast a lead. There isn't one actor. So each of these actors has to like play their character, like looking at Ed Griswold's comment about the protagonist took on the traits of the host. This one's clever. This one has a temper. So doing that, but also adding in enough traits to make it feel like it's one person through the series.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a very different experience to watch than to read. Because you like Aidan's thoughts kept you like in line with, oh, this is one person going through it versus
it's like
you won't have that.
But in reverse. You have to have 7 people who all kind of seem like the same person.
And in terms of like the structure and the day hopping, I would like to see if like, so the butler wakes up on and off a bunch. So if you put that all in one episode, especially if it's episode 2 or 3, 2. And so in episode 2, you get to see little flashes of everything to come rather than seeing it. That episode at the time would probably feel kind of bleh, of like, this was confusing and didn't make any sense. But since Netflix is like, you can binge it all right now rather than have to wait week to week, I think it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do think if I enjoyed the book enough to want to look through it again, like a lot of stuff would stand out and be really interesting.
Yeah, one thing I was curious about is, so like, I'm assuming that Evelyn never interacts with any of her family other than her brother. Like she doesn't interact with anyone who would have known her before, you know, like I would be curious to like go back and read that and see how like she like is selective about who she's around.
Yeah.
Because when I got to that part, to the twist at the end, I was like, so nobody noticed it wasn't her.
No one realized she had a different hair color and a different face.
Because like the mom had been dead pretty much all along, and the dad was just kind of MIA and then died.
I think so. I think he was like avoiding her or something.
Yeah, he was around in the book, I'm pretty sure. We talked to a Hardcastle.
Yeah,
he made it to the hunt.
We meet him, but I think we don't meet him until we're in the lawyers.
Yeah,
because like they all like have drinks with him in the cabin. He's like not even staying in the house. He's staying in like some extra building because him and his wife aren't getting along or whatever.
Yeah. This is off topic, but the mom's name, Helena Hardcastle. Every time I read it, I just kept thinking about like the old like haunted mansion, like Helena handbasket, Halloween spoof names. I did.
Wikipedia page realizing that in the UK it was just called The Seven Deaths.
Yeah. I was gonna bring that up. They changed it because of the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
But did that not come out in the UK also, or the UK was just like,
I don't know.
People will figure it out.
It's probably that this one came out first in the UK, is my guess.
Oh, that would make sense.
I think it came out around the same time.
Definitely
in the US. So it probably came out earlier in the UK. Yeah, it came out in February 2018 in the UK and September 2018 here. Not sure about Evelyn Hugo. Looking it up. Evelyn Hugo came out in 2017 here. I'm not sure about the UK. If it's out there. I'm assuming it is because it's such a big book.
Very big book, yeah. We also did that one for a book club, and we all liked it a lot. So if you want to see us be happy about a book.
Absolutely superior in Evelyn, yes.
One thing Ed Griswold mentioned, the protagonist taking on the traits of his host. I thought that was like an interesting subplot that I would have liked even more of, because he takes on their traits and then they start like gaining more power the longer he's there. So he's like losing control, which is there to create tension and kind of worked, but we also didn't think about it too much. So it didn't create that much tension. But I thought that was an interesting thing to add to the plot.
And that's one place where the like bouncing between days probably benefited versus like doing one episode per day of like just the later ones are going to be kind of all their personality versus the older ones, which it'll be hard to get attached to the main character. But
I feel like I wonder if they will weave in stuff from his past. Like, will they have us see the backstory going on? So, like, the viewer knows earlier about Anna and her history with him.
And I think a big part of why I didn't dislike this book as much is that I didn't care about a lot of these characters. Like, for me, it was more, I assume all of these people are crappy people because I'm supposed to assume maybe they're the murderer. Eventually, I figured out it wasn't. But by then, it was just like, for me, it was more about the mystery. And like, I don't have a ton of experience with the genre. My brain just like, I only liked like 2 people in Knives Out, and that was fine. So yeah, it was interesting looking at it from the perspective of it would be so fun to plot a mystery one day. And this is just like that on a whole other level.
Yeah. There were so many moving parts of this book.
Just so many characters. Somebody, I think it was Ed Griswold, mentioned how, Ed Griswold said, I think it took too long to introduce all the characters. I found the character list useful, but hated how often I had to flip back to it. And yeah, like I had an ebook and an audiobook that I kind of went back and forth between. And like, it's impossible to go back to a list of characters in either of those. It makes it really difficult. And so like, I was just always like, I don't remember who these people are.
I had the physical book and I just didn't care enough to flip back. I was like, this person, cool.
And that's where like the non-diversity of the cast to like such a hardcore extent of like every one of the hosts was a middle-aged or older white guy of like, it didn't matter who anybody was.
That was one of my things. I was like, I was a little bit disappointed he was like never in like a woman's body. Like it was all just
there was no plot reason for that to be the case.
Yeah,
like,
it was all people who were like him. Like they were all just like middle-aged white men, you know.
Yeah. Which I guess brings us to the Raven Court of it all, which was the reason I had determined I was going to DNF the book initially. And then Erin said she wasn't going to be able to make it. And I was like, crap, I have to finish it.
Yeah. It's like I already was not super enjoying it. And then I got to the Raven Court day and like, yeah, just like so unnecessarily fat phobic. And like, I think there is a point to like, if you're like a skinny person and you wake up in a fat body, like, and like a very fat body, like it's going to have an impact on you and you're going to notice it because it's not what you're used to moving through. But like,
it's like this guy doesn't even remember his body. He
true.
doesn't know this isn't his.
That's also true. Yeah. That it's like, he takes on so many traits of the host that like, it shouldn't be an issue for him. And it's just the fact that like, the author specifically, like the language he chooses to use repeatedly, like the word like disgust and disgusting and disgusted, like showed up so many times in the first few pages of the Raven Court section.
And it's just like, sometimes you can be like, oh, well, this is an unlikable character, but at no point were we made to believe that Aidan was supposed to be unlikable. And then it was there so frequently that I was like, you okay, Stuart? You might need to like think about your life.
Yeah. Because like I think that like characters can have views that authors don't agree with, and I don't even think that a book necessarily needs to be like this character's views are wrong. But it did not feel intentional in any way, which makes it worse. You know that it just like felt like he was like, well, this is how a person would feel if they were super, super fat. You know,
and that's why I would agree with Leslie's comment if it was written by anyone else, because like I'm glad Stuart
didn't put him in a woman's body.
Yeah, existing in a woman's
Stuart
body.
knew. He knew what he would have done if he put it in a woman's body.
Yeah, that's very possible.
I regret that phrasing. I'm so sorry. Dinner.
Because yeah, it just would have been creepy the whole time and pass.
Yeah.
So, but written by somebody else could have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And like, I hope the Netflix series gets more interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and I was gonna say there was like one point where like I feel like he kind of tried to redeem it. I think it was in like the next body that he was. Yeah, it was when he was in like the terrible person, Jonathan Darby, like right after that. And like that's when it kind of starts to get into like he has like some of the personalities of the characters, and like there's like a point where he's in the like carriage with Daniel, I think, and they say something about like yeah, but like Ravencourt is like really clever, so like there are benefits to be like, and it like tried to make it better and it made it worse. Like then it was like
Yeah.
you can't move because he's so fat, but at least he's smart. It was like, oh gosh.
Ugh.
Random side note, just because of the carriage thing, because like he was in the carriage or something when he saw one of his last days who just like being beaten to a pulp kind of thing and was terrified. Thought that was an interesting point of like seeing your future self kind of just like shocked and traumatized and knowing that's coming for you. I thought was an interesting way to use the setup.
Yeah.
Ration, I think. No. Yes. Ration, yeah. So he kept like dreading getting to day 7 because like that guy was not coping.
That guy was like, don't get out of the carriage.
Yeah.
I almost wish we'd seen that guy much, much sooner.
Yeah.
Then I feel like I would understand his motivations just a little bit. I felt like Anne Griswold a lot. Like, why are you doing any of this?
That would have made a big difference. And like given him some motivation to solve it faster. And although the butler wasn't having a very nice time either. So
yeah. I don't know, man. If I wake up in a Groundhog Day situation where this guy's like, you're going to be miserable for 8 days straight and you've already been doing it for 30 years, just let the footman kill me. Like, it cannot be worth it.
anything else we want to dig into?
It gave us a lot to talk about.
Did, yeah. I feel like there's like so many like parts to the story that gives you a lot.
Maybe like I don't think we could go there more generally, but it'd be an interesting discussion to like how we would fix books that had like that didn't quite execute the way we hoped. Would be a fun discussion, but I don't know if we're willing to say anything about any books.
But I just don't know like how much of this is like obviously some of this stuff is just objectively bad. But how much of the stuff that I didn't like is just the book I went in expecting was not the book that Stuart wrote, which is totally fine.
Yeah. Because this was a fairly popular book.
Yeah. It's pretty well rated on Goodreads. It hit the bestseller lists.
It's getting a Netflix show.
It's getting a Netflix show. Like it really did work for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh, my last thing was the ending. Which I found interesting. I was also interested that we never learned what Aidan actually looked like.
True. Also, yeah, okay, mentioning the ending, like, okay, so the whole idea of this prison is that they're there to like become better people somehow and be rehabilitated. But then when Anna leaves, she's not going to remember any of it.
Yeah, she's not obligated to remember her time.
So, like, if she
Puzzle.
forgets it all, wouldn't she go back to being the person?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because, like,
or could you not have just wiped her memory from the start?
Yeah, I think it's more of like a soul trauma thing. Because otherwise, it wouldn't matter if they do this like for 30 years. Like it's the doing it again and again has somehow changed her. So I don't think it works, but I think he kind of set up why it works in the world that he.
Yeah. And just the timeline of it all, which I know he thought about the timeline so much when writing this, but after 8 days, he's like, this terrorist has probably changed. And then that her last memory is him killing her. And she's like, this is probably fine.
It actually almost be more interesting as like a video game where you get to like, you can pick Octopath Traveler. I never played it, did it? There's like 8 characters and you play the same game and you pick which order you play the characters in, and it affects how the game goes forward. So if you could like play this from any of the characters in any, or even if you have to go in the forced order, but then the things you do are recorded. Oh, I want to make this a game. That'd be so cool. But not this story. So yeah, you were recorded. What you do with that character lives on your next day.
Yeah. It's kind of like Hades, which I just bought and I have not played yet, but it's like you play and you like die and you go back to the beginning, but like you get to keep what you gained from like the previous playthrough. So like every time you play through it, you get to like keep like different like skills and abilities and knowledge that you've gained or whatever. So but just that, but with multiple characters.
And Griswold said, Leslie was saying, I feel like a movie would be enough, which is interesting because we did all kind of feel like the book was maybe a little too long.
Yeah, I feel like definitely like a limited series. Like they could not draw this out into like some long series. That would be a problem. But I think just like a limited 7-episode series is like a good.
I think the episodic, although there's 8.
But that's what it is
to me,
getting, right?
Yeah,
it is getting 7.
Yeah. I wonder if they would even like take out the butler because like he does so little.
I would take out the guy who just tried to drive away.
True. Yeah. Or that. Yeah. That's a good.
I liked the butler just being like this every time he gets rocketed out of one body. He just wakes up in excruciating pain again.
Yeah. And I do like my idea of it's like having all of the butler's little snippets all in one episode, so you just see like further into the day and just like the footman shows up and Daniel's there at some point. I'll go, that would give away the Daniel twist.
I feel like if they did that, they would have to put the butler episode later in the you know, like it could be like second to last episode or something. You like see all these little pieces and it like pulls things together.
Did the book ever say why Aidan hopped bodies and others did not?
Because so the way it's set up is the way that Anna and Daniel were like experiencing it. Like you're supposed to just go in and you get wiped every time, but like you know what's going on. And you like have to do it over and over again. But because he chose to go in, they like gave him a different set of rules because they were like
that permeated.
Yeah, they were basically like, because you're not actually a criminal, we'll make it a little bit easier for you to figure it out so that you can eventually leave if you want to leave. Although
except no one's ever solved this mystery, so
yeah. So that was why, which like okay.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for like hard and fast rules. Like having someone else having different rules did not sit with me. Of like, this isn't a game if somebody else is playing something else.
And like I like the idea of him having a different advantage than them. Like once again, kind of like as a video game thing, like different characters having different advantages. But like but the reason they gave him an advantage like wasn't
See, I would have done it, it looked like give Anna and Daniel different advantages rather than
Anna can remember everything, but she doesn't get the hot bodies, and Daniel has something else. He gets to be buddies with the footman forever.
He has like a permanent ally or whatever. Yeah.
And like he gets to start the day before or something.
That would be interesting,
See, it's such a cool concept. That's what I hate.
It is.
Yeah.
There's just a few books like that of like the concept is incredible, but it's so specific that no one else can like try it again without it.
Because they will know I'm ripping off Stuart. There's gotta be a way.
Or like even ones that like turned out fine, but you just like want to take those same very unique sets of rules.
Do something different with it,
Fan fiction. It's the only way.
I'm looking at Fear Street. I don't really know what that is.
Oh yes, I'm very excited about Fear Street.
Is that a R.L.
Stein?
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah,
absolutely yes.
We'll put that on our list of things to do eventually.
Yeah. And Griswold, you have more than earned it.
Settle
we'll just do the thing because you want it. So
yeah, we never actually settled on next quarter's movie night, right?
True.
Yeah.
So we could
Done.
consider it. Yeah.
I don't remember who we.
Aaron is in charge of it, I think, technically.
Because we were going to do something with witches.
Because our book club for next quarter, as an aside, we do book clubs once a quarter. Next quarter is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson, I believe.
I think so.
Which I've already read that one, and I like that one, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
Back in my comfortable place but I liked this one.
Well, I don't know that Fear Street does it have a date yet?
I saw it on my Netflix the other day when I opened. I don't know if it was out or if it was advertising it.
Also, I'm gonna need Megan to pre-watch it for me. So
I got you.
That'll be the next thing on notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just says 2021. I can't find the date.
something says July. Sorry, you're
I'm signing into my Netflix right now.
July 2nd, 9th, and 16th.
Ooh,
Like
okay.
this weekend it starts.
Yeah.
Netflix is doing weekly releases, really, because they're like films and not a
They're
show.
movies, yeah.
That's cool. Oh, I'm excited. I didn't even know about this.
Oh, and we put movie night for July. That'll work out really
It's
nicely.
perfect.
All
And
right.
like originally we were talking about
has witches.
perfect.
So
We were
Erin
talking
will
about
watch
something
it.
spooky, but all of Erin's like spooky movie witch recommendations were very Halloweeny.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that's weird for July, but this is coming out in July. Netflix made this decision.
Okay.
Not us.
Yeah. I love it. I am
All right.
amped.
So that'll be our next movie night next month.
Yeah. Next week, our chat is a quarterly chat since we aren't doing weekday videos anymore. And instead, we are doing shorter videos over on TikTok and then also reposting those TikToks on our Instagram, which you can follow at Weird Nerds Vlog. We realized we were going to be missing the quarter videos that we typically do, which is where we talk about, the game night, the book club, the movie night, and then also
All those things we just revealed in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, but also like what our goals are, what we want to be reading next quarter, what we want to be writing, what we want to be doing creatively, and just celebrating that. And so we thought it would be nice to do quarterly live chats now. That way we can actually like interact with you all, talking about what we want to have happen over the next 3 months. And we are moving into the third quarter of 2021, which seems illegal, but okay. So yeah, we hope you will all join us then. We're here every Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We have picked out all our live chats for the next quarter. So keep an eye out. I'm going to be scheduling all of those this week. So you'll be able to put them on your calendars and see all the great topics we have coming up. Does anyone have any last minute stuff?
No, we went like a full 50, almost 50 minutes on a book club.
With 3 of us.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We had like good turnout for a book club too. So thank you for reading and coming and discussing it with us.
Because almost nobody enjoyed it. So we
We read more bad books.
And we will see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.